So grateful to be here, everyone. And as ado, if that's how you say it, this morning, I want to share with you that in my experience, I have learned more from you than I think any of the words or teachings I've been able to give up here. And I just wanted to share with you what it is that I've learned from you by sharing some of those key virtues that you've taught me, not only that have helped me to become a better minister, but a better person, husband, dad, all those types of things. The first one that comes to mind is courage. You are some of the most courageous people I've ever known. A kind of a silent courage. Some of you have survived a health diagnosis where you were told you weren't going to survive. You've survived abusive childhoods, abusive relationships, ministers. The psychological damage that can come from being a part of a war, serving your country, losses of spouses, of children. And one of the greatest honors of my life is to have been let in intimately into so many of your lives, to be present. And you've taught me that spiritual living isn't about a fanciful set of affairs. It's about walking through our lives, especially the challenges, with faith and with grace. And that's what I see you do all of the time. You here to me are an example of what Albert Camus famously said. He said that even in the midst of winter, I find within myself an invincible summer. You are that invincible summer to me. Camus would go on, he'd say, knowing that invincible summer, that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back. There are so many different stories that I could tell of courage, and I just want to tell the most recent one that I've experienced by someone in our congregation. That's by one of our practitioners, Mary Birch. And Mary Birch, she wrote in our newsletter some of her experience, but she's recovering from cancer. And I remember having lunch with her, and she shared with me that she had discovered a lump and some tests were being done. And she shared with me her peace with her own mortality. She loved God, and she knew God loved her. And she knew no matter what, her spirit was all right. And so not only did she have that kind of spiritual clarity, but she also had that human clarity as well when the test came back that she had cancer, of being afraid and confused about what to do. I mean, being okay with one's passing is one thing, but with how it's going to happen and figuring it out, that's another. Do I treat this cancer? Do I just let it be and trust God? It was a very difficult decision for her that she had no illusions about. And she decided to go with treatment, and she shares that while receiving the 7-hour chemo infusions, I would visualize the chemicals infused with the loving healing light of God, taking away all and anything that did not belong in my body. It was a very rough road, and whenever fear and despair tried to creep into my mind, I chased them away with some powerful affirmations. One of my favorites is, I surrender to the power and presence of God within me now. Isn't that a good one? I surrender to the power and presence of God within me now. A kind of silent courage, and she just sat there every week and came to church while going through that experience. And what I loved about Mary is she knew it didn't matter where it went. If she was going to recover, and she is recovering, and she is cancer-free today, but even if she wasn't, what we knew wholeheartedly is that she was going to go with God, and God with her. And she had that kind of grace and that kind of courage. Something I love about this congregation as well is we're not afraid to talk about death here. You know, the times I've laughed the most at this church are the 3 or 4 classes we've had about dying. Oh yes, dying class. This is going to be fun. but we talk about it, we lighten up about it, and if you've taken a class with me, we always share quotes, and we'd have a couple fun quotes about dying, like Woody Allen when he said, "I'm not afraid of death, I just don't want to be there when it happens." Or the great Stephen Wright, who said, "My goal in life is to live forever. So far, so good." Congratulations, everybody. And then we might hit upon something profound, like these words from John Muir, who said, "On no subject are our ideas more warped and pitiable than on death. Let children walk with nature. Let them see the beautiful blendings and communions of death and life, their joyous, inseparable unity, as taught in woods and meadows, plains and mountains and streams of our blessed star, and they will learn that death is stingless indeed, and as beautiful as life, and that the grave has no victory, for it never fights. All is divine harmony." Or I even think of Socrates, who said, "We talk about death like it's the worst curse, but how do we not know it's the greatest blessing?" That's the heart of philosophy. And so I love that we've been able to talk about these things, and one of the greatest gifts I've been given in my life is the intimate gift of getting to be with some of our congregants besides their hospice bed, either while they were passing or in preparation for such a thing. And it taught me personally, I can still be pretty agnostic about that kind of thing, but it taught me that one can make their transition in dignity, in peace, in grace, when one is complete with their own heart, that there's nothing that anything can strip away from us. And what a powerful lesson that was for me to learn, that this congregation taught me. I love that this congregation isn't full of it. I love that we seek to be whole even in the midst of our feelings of brokenness, that we have a certain celebration of life among us, again, with that quiet bravery in how we live our lives, but also in our centeredness and our ability to be unafraid to share if something's going wrong or something's troubling us. My two favorite parts of our Sunday services are first at the end, when the kids come up and share. Isn't that the best? And they always share profound wisdom with us. And my other favorite time is when the practitioner gets up and shares. And what we ask our practitioners to do is we ask them to say a prayer, but we also ask them to share something personal. And I love it because it's this balance of the spiritual and the human and how they come together. And our practitioners are so unique. Dare I say, some of us are a little quirky as well. But what can you think of a better example than someone who both embraces their spirituality and their humanness and portrays it in a way that helps us realize that we are living sacred lives, that even in our jest, in our foibles, in our uncertainties, in our challenges, the sacred is right there. And there's something about coming together and acknowledging that helps us celebrate it even further to a greater degree in our lives. You've also taught me a whole lot about perspective, especially to not take myself so seriously. I've developed a vision for our congregation. The vision is whole people, whole lives. That's what we are to me, whole people living whole lives, nothing absent, and making sure we take the time to celebrate with one another. But again, it involves that balance of the spirit and the humanness. I've learned over time that people don't necessarily resonate with the spiritually profound thought that I share, but when I tell a story about falling on my ass, then it's a different thing. You're standing at the line and someone comes by and that story you told about falling on your ass, that one, that really inspired me. I related with that. And I love that about us. I love that we have a sense of humor, because humor tells and expresses truth in such an extraordinary way. For me, the day I feel I truly became a minister at this church, it was October 31st, 2010, when I put on the chicken outfit. Oh, yeah. And my vision was clear. It was to come out in a chicken outfit and to give as serious a sermon as possible, to speak profoundly and with conviction. And it teaches a great lesson, right? It reminds me of what William James said, that we're all like cats and dogs in libraries walking around having no idea what's between the pages. We do our best in this life, but if we can't leave a little bit of room for the ridiculous, we kind of don't get the point. There was a secret reason for me dressing up like a chicken. It wasn't because it was Halloween. It was because it was a week away from my 30th birthday. And I had realized how serious I was, how stoic I had become, how rough my edges were becoming. And something about being here, you taught me to let those edges go, that to be safe and live in vulnerability is a much easier way to live than putting on a front. You've also taught me so much about commitment and love. I love our couples here. Don't we have so many amazing couples? We've got some here, Merle and Mamie, Ken and Marilyn, Bill and Betty. I love all of our couples who've been married for so long. I know there's more of you out there, too. And I love our divorcees, too. And I love our widows and our widowers, because you've all taught me that in so many ways there's no more noble title than that of husband or that of wife. It's an amazing thing to commit to love. And you really taught me here that love isn't a fanciful set of affairs. It's not a way of being. It's a practice. I remember April and I had been seeing each other seriously for a couple of years. This was about 5 years ago, and Yvonne Woods, who's been married for a long time to her husband Paul, said, "Hey, how's your relationship going?" And I said, "It's going pretty good, but it's hard work sometimes." And she looked me dead in the eye. She says, "Josh, I've been married for 50 years, and it's still hard work sometimes." And it sounds funny in a way, but it lifted something from my heart. It was that part of me that was believing so strongly that if something was going wrong in my relationship, that it meant that love wasn't there or love wasn't present, when really it was a call to practice love. It was an alarm clock to bring that heart and way of being in. So you've taught me so much about how to care for one another, how to be present for one another, and how even little frustrations or things like that are a call to love each other that much more. I love viewing and watching you in relationship. I think perhaps the most important thing that I've received from this wonderful congregation is a true understanding of what vision is. What vision truly is. And I think I thought for a long time that vision is something that we see. It's something that you see and you try to bring about and you manifest and you follow some leader to get there. And what I've learned from this congregation is vision isn't what you see, it's how you see. Vision is that presence that you bring into your life or into your church that helps nurture and make things grow. And this congregation is so good at that. I think that's what really makes us special. How we honor the sacred in each person that comes into the room, how we see each other with dignity, not necessarily for our title or for how much money we make or what we look like or what our orientation is or whatever it may be. We see the child of God in one another. And for me, oh boy, have I been blessed by this way of seeing. To get up here week after week and to be held in that vision of support, it's an amazing gift, the best I've ever received. When people ask me about my own success in ministry, how did you do it? And I feel very successful because I've been here. I might think about hard work or talent, but the real answer is support. I am successful because I've been so supported, because people saw a truth in me that maybe even when I wasn't ready to see about myself. And the smart thing I did was step into it slowly and surely. See, I'm just a guy, but you made me a minister. I share words and stories and thoughts. You give them animation and power and resonance. It's the vision that I was able to step into that helped make me who I am. And why, for me, this has been the most difficult thing ever, is the idea of stepping out of that vision. It's that fear. But I know, too, that just because I'm stepping off the stage doesn't mean that I'm not in the glimpse of that vision, but I want you to know how important it is. And I also realize, too, it takes a while to get there, that it's time for someone else to step into this vision. Not to provide you with a vision or some teaching you don't already know, but to be in it and reflect it back to you in such a way that helps us see each other so much better. And so I love the spiritual community, and I hope that you've been touched by the vision of this church. Whether you've been coming here for 30 years or this is your first time, give yourself that opportunity to step into that vision that sees you as a holy being, that honors you as sacred, that even includes your flaws, your insecurities, your frustrations, and still sees you as whole and as a divine expression of something wonderful. I invite you to step into that vision and stay in that vision as it continues to carry you forward and this church forward, because it is this vision that we collectively bring together that nurtures, that grows. And I know that I'm going to be taking a lot of it. I'm going to need it too in my new adventure. So moving into a closing prayer today, I just invite us to allow that sacred vision to enter any area of our lives where it is being called for. There is indeed a holy vision. There is indeed something that we might call the eyes of the sacred. And when we allow ourselves to enter it, even when we are afraid or unsure, it begins to light our way. It begins to shine from us like that invincible summer in the midst of winter. It begins to shine through our relationships, our thinking, and our lives, as if it has always been there. This light of vision that is you and that is I, that we have used to create this marvelous spiritual community together, I know carries us forward wherever we are. It doesn't know location. It doesn't know job title. It only knows that divine truth, that is that truth which binds us all. I am so grateful for it, and so it is. So it is. So thank you for your time, everybody, these last 7 years. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, and let's hear it for Steve Ballou and Bill Wolf.